Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today, Alan and I had a very special guest for episode number 222, the one and only Sydney Nanberg. She is an entrepreneur. She is also a podcaster, and she is awesome.
We're actually going on her show soon as well. But she's a self-care aficionado?
No,
something
junkie.
Like that?
Self-care
junkie. Okay,
yes.
Either way.
And an anti-bullying advocate as well.
So we recently did an episode on being selfish versus selfless and how to balance those two, fill your own cup versus also serving the world. So this episode is going to help you tremendously learn how to fill your own cup. I, as a matter of fact, had someone recently write out a list of the 5 ways to fill her own cup. And I think that Sydney is really good at taking care of herself. She has habits at the beginning and end of her day to make sure she's taking care of herself consistently, which Kevin and I need to do a better job of.
Yes, I'm a little bit tired. She talked about how she was bullied in school, and at one point she debated suicide. And throughout all that bullying and throughout all those dark times, she never lost her true why of wanting to help others. So Alan and I resonated very highly with Sydney, and we hope you will as well.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, the Hyperconscious Podcast is proudly sponsored by our friend and mentor, David Meltzer of the Playbook Podcast. He was kind enough to join us on episode 144 and 135.
Folks, it has become Kevin and I's mission in life to help you realize that the life of your dreams is right on the other side of you becoming the greatest version of yourself. Let us help you do that.
I rarely do these things twice in such a short amount of time, but you guys impress me. I believe in people that provide value and of our service. You two guys are on your way to huge fulfillment, purpose, and profitability, and I look forward to helping you both.
We appreciate that more than you know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today's guest is an entrepreneur, a self-care junkie, the host and creator of the She Did It podcast, and an anti-bullying activist. We are sitting down with the one and only amazing Sydney Nanberg. How are you doing?
I am doing great. That was an amazing intro. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
I am all hopped up. I had a large iced coffee with a turbo shot, and I am ready to roll.
I had a Diet Coke, so I mean that gave me a little bit of energy.
A little jump, a little jump.
Caffeine.
A little bit, yeah.
All right, so first, just as a reference, I went through your website and your social media to get an idea of who you were, and I based my questions off of that. So I think this was on your website, and you said no one else but you can decide if your story is of value. What is your story, Sydney?
So my story is, growing up, I was bullied, severely bullied, and I suffered from a lot of anxiety and depression and an eating disorder, and at one point I was suicidal, and I was constantly overcoming obstacle after obstacle, and when I was miserable, I was so unhappy. And when I was 20 years old, I was at the University of Arizona, and I realized I still wasn't happy. You know, I had some great friends, but it just wasn't my path. I did what society told me that I needed to do, and I went to college, and I wasn't happy, and it didn't feel right. And I asked myself, okay, if I could do anything in the world right now, what would it be? And I gave myself 3 seconds to answer the question. And it was to move to Miami Beach. And I'm from Chicago. So it was to move to Miami Beach and start my own business and somehow become the CEO before the age of 25 and just live on the beach and go after what's going to make me happy. So I then decided to take action. I created a plan. I did not drop out of college right away. What I did was I dropped the classes that I was taking, and I signed up for everything that scared me, everything that was going to challenge me and help me to grow. So I took public speaking classes because I was terrified of speaking, and I wanted to improve my communication skills. And so I also took a comedy improv class because that makes you extremely uncomfortable. I took leadership classes. I got a job doing sales just at a local boutique in the Tucson area to learn how to become the best salesperson there was. And after a couple of months of that, I packed up my bags. I had 2 suitcases and I moved down to Florida. And within a few months, I started my company, the marketing firm, and I just kind of kept going and going and going. And it's 5 years later. And then a year and a half ago, I started the She Did It podcast and CydneyNanberg.com, where I give people the tools and resources to live a fulfilling life based on, the lessons that I've learned and the lessons that other people have learned, because I want to show people that it doesn't matter what society says, anything is possible. It doesn't matter what obstacle comes your way. Anything is possible if you put your mind to it and you want to make it happen. So that's my story.
Strong opening.
To sum it up.
Very, very strong opening. So the first question I want to ask you is kind of off the cuff here. So our listeners tend to be women between 20s and 30s that want more out of life, that struggle with courage and confidence. You seem like you also struggled with courage and confidence for a long time, but they also struggle with the balance between selfishness and selflessness. In other words, developing yourself, doing things for you, filling your own cup versus emptying your cup into others, pouring into others. Right. So for you personally, what's your take on selfish versus selfless, and how have you learned to balance those? Because you mentioned you have multiple businesses, but you also serve with those businesses. So how do you stay afloat yourself while also serving?
The truth is that it's actually, it can be very difficult. And I am a big believer in self-care, because if you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of others. And I think there's a big misconception. A lot of people think that taking time for self-care is selfish, but it's actually selfless in a way, because if you don't take care of yourself, you end up getting burnt out, which means you cannot best serve others. And if you take care of yourself and take a little bit of time for yourself, such as implementing a morning routine or a nighttime routine, something, it doesn't have to be extravagant, into your schedule, you are going to then feel better. You're going to have better, you'll be able to set better intentions throughout the day, make better decisions. You'll be able to really be there and be present. So I'm a big believer that, if you really want to get to the next level in life and do something and be able to really help people, you have to help yourself first. And that's not selfish. It's actually more beneficial to everyone around you, and also including yourself.
I'm going to go off the cuff as well.
Okay.
So the reason this came up is because Alan and I are recording an episode on that, and we tried to record it before this, but I guess that's something that I don't resonate very highly with, because I feel like I think I'm used to just doing what I know I have to do to win. And I've just always done that because it was sink or swim for me. But do you find that the people who have growth mindsets and have high ambitions in your life understand why you're doing what you're doing, or can that be a struggle with everybody?
You know what? It's so funny, because I actually just had this conversation last night with someone. You're talking about like with making time for self-care and yourself and growth at the same time, right?
Yeah, like for me, I do a lot of things where it's like, yeah, I could go out to the bar with you, but number one, I don't want to, and number two, it's not in alignment with my mission, my purpose.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. And you know what? It's really hard for people around me to understand, and people get really concerned because, I'm not really a big believer in a work-life balance, because if you're going to choose to be an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to put in the hours and the work. So that means, in my mind, sacrifice. But to me, sacrificing happy hours and things like that, to me, I don't really enjoy it. So it's not, a big deal. People around, it's really hard for people to understand, but I do have that growth mindset where I see my goals, I see long-term what I want, and I know what it takes to get there. Therefore, I have to put in the work. At the same time, the best way for me to also make sure I do a good job at that is to take care of me. So I have like strict morning routines and nighttime routines in place. And those are things that make me happy. But I have that same growth mindset, but it's hard for a lot of people to understand. And But at the end of the day, like if you really want to get somewhere, you have to have do those two things. One, know what your end goal is and do whatever it takes. And then also make sure you put yourself first. Otherwise you're not going to get there.
Can you
Did that answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you take us into what your nighttime and morning routines are, just so maybe the listeners might be able to pick something up that they might like?
Yeah, for sure. So I believe that your morning routine starts at night. And so I'm a really big believer in that. So every single night, I put my phone down probably around 8 o'clock. I try to, and I have like a whole little routine. So I will go to the gym, I'll work out, I will come back, I'll shower, but I don't just shower. I'm all about doing everything with a twist. That's my whole thing. So I will shut all of the shades. I will turn on my Himalayan salt lamp. I will put eucalyptus and lavender in a aromatherapy diffuser. I will put the sound of the ocean on, and I'll take a steam shower, and then I will get out, and then I will meditate for 5 to 10 minutes, and then I will read a book, and I'll journal a little bit, and it just calms my mind. And then after I do that, and I'm kind of calmed down and in a good place, I'll do my calendar the night before. I'll do my to-do list the night before. I will take out my clothes if I'm going somewhere, or I like to start my day with, either a run or a walk or some form of movement. I'll take that out. So I try to eliminate decision making and set myself up to sleep well the night before, because if you're rested the night, if you get good sleep, you're going to wake up with more energy and you're going to feel better. Something else I do at night is make sure that I hydrate. So I make sure I drink 2 glasses of water before I go to sleep. And it's also the first thing I do in the morning. So I do all of that. I set myself up to eliminate decisions in the morning. I wake up in the morning. The first thing I do is I drink 2 glasses of water. I know this is super extreme. So a lot of people, this is not perfect every day either, but I'll wake up and I'll hydrate, because, you're going however many hours without water. So you're going to feel dehydrated, which leaves you feeling fatigued and just kind of blah. So if you're not a morning person, that's a really good tip. And I'll wake up and I'll meditate. You can meditate for 3 to 10 minutes. I will journal, and I will either go for a run or go for a walk. And I will then come back and I will shower, get ready for the day, and start working. And I also set my intentions in the morning, and I practice gratitude. And I really take that time for me to start and end my day so that I can make better decisions throughout the day and show up as my best self. And, that kind of ties into why self-care isn't selfish and important if you have that growth mindset, because if I don't take that, there are a lot of days, sometimes there's a week where I just don't have the time to make that time, and that week is not as productive and I don't get further. So there's a reason that I do it, and you have to find what works for you, but I'm a big believer in those routines.
Self-care junkie for sure. I love
Yes.
it. And you won't sound extreme on this podcast. Don't worry. It is extreme,
Okay.
but it is extremely awesome.
For those on YouTube,
Thank
when you
you.
were talking about drinking 2 glasses of water during the day, Alan was like, when you said it was extreme, he was getting ready to say, no, you're doing it right.
Yeah, for sure. No, a lot of people, when I tell them, I'm like, you have to make sure, like, obviously, like, stay hydrated throughout the day, but it's specifically at night before you go to sleep. When I tell people drink 2 glasses of water, they're like, no, I'm going to have to get up in the middle of the night. And like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, who cares? You're going to wake up with more energy. It's not like, and your body will get used to it. And when you wake up in the morning and you drink 2 glasses, it's like, it wakes you up, and it's amazing. And I just suggest that everybody tries it. And start with one thing. If you don't have a routine in place yet, start with one thing and then just build on that.
So that's the thing that I wanted to bring to the listeners. Obviously, that's evolved. Your routine has evolved, and it will continue to evolve.
Absolutely.
Based on you evolving and also your goals and dreams evolving. So you're always reverse engineering your finish lines, and then knowing yourself, knowing what works for you, experimenting and trying new things. So to make it clear,
sure.
it's not like you just started and all of a sudden it was that in depth. And I'm sure there's actually more to it than you just took us through. So my next question is super simple. When did you start learning about the power of habits, and what were the resources that really got you to start designing your life, especially the bookends, morning and night, to really make sure you're on track?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So when I was 20 and I was at school and I decided I was going to make a change and make this move, I started reading a lot about entrepreneurship, and I was doing everything to challenge myself. And so I was constantly out of my comfort zone. And one thing that I learned was that I needed to create better habits to become the best version of myself. And especially, when you're constantly out of your comfort zone, and I'm already an anxious person as is, I needed some form of stability. And that's when I kind of realized, like, okay, what if I put some routines in place, and I started to form better habits? Like, will that benefit my mental health, like, while I'm growing? And so it all happened during that time. And yeah, I actually started with just one thing. So I just started by, making it like simple things. I started by making a to-do list every day. It's something I never used to do. So I started, even on my to-do list, I wasn't working yet. I was still, taking these classes. On my to-do list, I would put, just make my bed. I would put, go for a run. I love to run. Go for a run. Whatever it is, I started with simple tasks. Obviously, now my to-do list is a little bit different. But as I started to form those habits, it took me, I would say, probably a month to get in the habit of like actually sticking to a to-do list and like checking things off. Then I added, in gratitude, having a gratitude journal and writing in it every day and staying committed to that. And then I added in journaling. Actually, the journaling probably began before all of this. Before I decided to drop out of school, I don't know. I was not in a good place. I was miserable, and I went home to Chicago, and I remember just sitting there thinking, what am I going to do? And my parents always told me, you should try journaling. You should try journaling. And I was like, no, what's that really going to do? I already have the thoughts in my mind. So I journaled. I was desperate at that point, and journaling actually helped me realize a lot of this. So so it started with the journaling, and then the to-do list, and then I just kept adding to it, and I started noticing that I just felt better overall as I had these habits in place. And while it's not my to-do list, and not my to-do list, my routines now and my self-care routines are they might sound extreme, but that's because I've taken one thing at a time, and I've just built and built. It's evolved. It's totally evolved. And, once you get in the habit of doing one thing, you can add on the next thing. And that's just what I did. But the reason I kept adding was because I realized that how much better I felt. I felt more organized. I felt mentally stable. I felt just more equipped to take on whatever it is I was going after in life. And that's really how I started. So I learned from reading, and I learned from doing, and I learned from being outside of my comfort zone. And I learned by knowing that, hey, if I want to get to where I want to be in life, and if I want to be happy, I better start taking different actions.
So I have a follow-up question for you on that, because that was very in-depth and very good. So if you were to go back and talk to the version of Sydney prior to having all these habits, I often say this: we don't do good habits long enough to see the payoff, to where when we stop doing them, it's like, oh my God, what's different? Oh yeah, I stopped journaling, or whatever it is. So you've done them consistently enough to where you notice when you don't do it. What would you tell to someone out there right now who maybe hasn't done them long enough, like an older version of, or a younger version of Sydney who hasn't done these things?
Yeah, well, I could tell you the one that's the most impactful, at least for me, is journaling. And journaling is something that I was so against my entire life, because I love to write, but I just really didn't feel the need to write about what was going on in my life. Until I started doing it, I realized, like, through journaling, I had so many realizations, and that was great, but I didn't always have realizations every day. But I wanted to get in the habit of just writing every day, even if it didn't do anything. And I'm a big believer in journaling at night, because I have so many thoughts going through my head all of the time, whether it's good things or ideas or negative things or anxiety. And journaling helps. Some days I just journal and I'm like, okay, it's just part of my routine. I did it regardless. Now, because I've consistently done it for 5 years, the times that I do not journal at night, I can tell you I do not sleep well at all, because I have thoughts running through my mind. And there is a significant difference when I journal before I go to bed, even on the days where I feel like, okay, I'm not anxious, everything's all good, nothing's going on, I don't really have any new ideas, I'm just like in my routine. But those days when I don't journal are the days that I don't sleep well. Therefore, the next day I suffer because of that, and I'm more irritated, and I'm less likely to, do my full morning routine. And but I wouldn't have known that if I just did it for a week. But because I've done it now for 5 years consistently, I know that when I don't do it, I just don't feel as good. And it's the same goes for for meditation, or even, when I get really stressed out, I have a whole little I have routines for everything. It's insane.
It's a good thing. It's awesome.
Yeah, I have I'm a big believer in creating a spa within your own home, because you go to the spa and you just feel like you're relaxed. Like, you have the music going, you have the scents going, you have the lighting. So when I'm stressed, and because I work from home, I have the ability to do that. But even if you don't work from home, you can do it at night. I turn on the lighting and everything. And when I get stressed, if I don't go back to my routine, there's a big difference. I just handle things very, very differently. The habits might be difficult to get into, but once you start doing it and you're consistent, you'll notice that it drastically impacts your life in a positive way.
Kevin and I were just talking about this before the episode. I don't think him and I are as good at the self-care piece.
No, I was just going to say, after this call, Sydney, I'm going to go get a hot tub. We're going to put it in the corner of the studio, and we're going to make this thing a spa.
And a salt lamp, too.
I don't think, like you said, we're very all in. So the only time I actually wanted it. So I have a question that is kind of along these lines. How do you know? Well, let me preface it. A lot of the things that Alan and I know now and we've learned is because we leveled up. We went through pressure. We went through the pressure cooker, and we
painful
survived.
Moments.
Yeah, a lot of painful moments. How do you know when to shy away from those painful moments and seek self-care versus hanging in the pain and assuming that you're going to level up from it?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Like I said before, it is like, I'm a big believer in self-care, but I do have a hard time making time for it. And so I make time for it in my own way, right? So I like my morning and my nighttime routine. But there are times where I'm doing so much at once, because that's my mentality. It's like, go, 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 do whatever you have to do. Like, if I have to stay up until 3:00 in the morning working, I will. If I have to wake up at 4 a.m., which I do a lot, that's what I do. I do what I have to do. And there are days, which is why I was talking about it with someone last night. Like, this week, for example, has been a chaotic week. It has been one obstacle for whatever reason after the next. And if I'm being totally transparent, I had to let go of my business partner actually this past week. It has been insane. And, that's why I was having this conversation. And today I actually took part of the morning off, and it's been a struggle to take part of this morning off, because I don't do that. I can't. It's hard for me, but I did it. And now, because I did that, I can become a better version of me. But until you actually do that and allow yourself that time, you'll be able to see that you're more productive. But I also see the other side, because I am the other side, where I do have a hard time with self-care, but I talk about it so much because I know the impact. And I know that even if it's just simply 30 minutes a day in the morning, it just makes a difference. And it doesn't have to be self-care a spa. You don't have to go for a massage. It could simply be sitting down for 10 minutes and writing what you're grateful for, and just having that time for you. A lot of people neglect themselves, but that will show up in your work later on. At some point, you're going to get burnt out. I never believe that I'm burnt out. But then when I take time for self-care,
and then you realize you were. Yep.
Yeah, I realized, wait a minute, I was. And then I start doing better work, and then there's less mistakes. And you're always going to make mistakes. There's always going to be hurdles and obstacles, and you just have to keep moving forward. But I mean, when I can move forward better when I make sure I make that time for me every day. And if I really am overworked and I'm really stressed, I don't like to stop, but I allow myself a couple hours, and I put a time limit on it. And that's what I do. And then I can come back stronger.
So we were talking about this. So me, Alan, my girlfriend, and then a couple podcast listeners / clients / good friends of ours came over for a dinner party last night, which was nice. I feel like an adult for the first time in my life. But we were talking about bullying, and I know that's something that is near and dear to your heart, and you're an advocate and an activist for that. So I wanted to ask you, you were bullied when you were younger. And the one thing that I read was you said that no matter how much pain you were in, your outlook on life and your motivation to have an impact on society never subsided. Why do you think that is? How did you not lose that passion, that purpose, that drive when you were really questioning so many things about yourself?
You know what? It's so crazy to think back because I was bullied from I don't even from the time I was a little kid until like all the way through high school. And despite having suicidal thoughts and or being suicidal and dealing with anxiety and eating disorder and depression and all of this, every day there was something in my gut feeling that said I am meant to do something to impact others. I didn't know how. I don't know how 6-year-old Sydney knew this. I was that kid that I did everything like differently than everybody else. Like I really, really struggled. Yet in my mind, it was a gut feeling that like, okay, you have to keep going. You can't give up because I just had this weird feeling. And, when I was in class in school and people were laughing at me, I really wouldn't respond because in my mind, I was actually sitting there like this is going to sound crazy, but like dreaming and thinking about the future. And a lot of times when you're facing any kind of obstacle in life, but bullying, you see what's happening directly in front of you. I saw that, but I also saw past that because I also saw somehow there are so many opportunities in this world. Like there's so much out there and I knew it was possible to have that. So yes, I had a lot of moments and I would come home from school crying almost every day. Yet when I would go to sleep at night, I wasn't crying. I was like envisioning my future and I would be excited. And it's kind of I don't know where I learned that. I know my mom gave me the book, The Secret. I don't remember how old I was. I was probably in middle school and I read it. And so I'm a big believer in the law of attraction, but I was like envisioning my future way before that. And I think the fact that I was able to do that despite the obstacle and still see some sort of good, that's what got me through. And I don't know where it came. I really don't know where it came from, but that's what I did.
One of the things I've often said, or we've said on this podcast, is that your adversity is your advantage because it's the basically emotional training ground to develop the emotional muscles you're going to need to go do extraordinary things that ordinary people cannot do. That's Darren Hardy who said that. But one of the things I found, so Kevin and I grew up in some adversity for sure, and I've said this, when I came to this realization, it blew my mind. When the present is painful and the past was painful, you have no choice but to go into the future. And I have found a very strong common denominator between people with huge dreams and adversity in childhood. So whether it was bullying or beyond that, I think that's wonderful that it created a vision and it became what was once a weakness became a huge strength in terms of being bullied. But
absolutely. You learn so much about yourself and it almost makes you I'm a relentless person.
I see that.
I don't give up. And I think what happened
my next question is about that, by the way. Just a future pace there. Yeah, keep going.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, I feel like I almost facing all of these obstacles from such a young age, almost and like I say, any obstacle in life, it gives you this armor and this strength because you've been through tough situations. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, at 20, when I want to drop out, I think, okay, what's the worst that happens? Okay, if I can't create this business that I don't have a degree for, I can always go back to school. I can always find a way. But like, to me, that wasn't an option. To me, my option was becoming a CEO of whatever company. I didn't even know at that point. I took it day by day, but I had this strength that was like you said, like, it's like, you have no other choice but to think of the future and you have to just keep going. And when you've been through so much pain, it's like you can only go up, but you have to allow yourself to go up. And that's what built this mentality that I have. And I'm grateful when I look back to all of the obstacles that I faced in life. I am so grateful because it created this person that I am today.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you are enjoying this episode. I have had a lot of people reach out to myself and to Alan and ask when they are going to get to see us in person. We are now traveling for speeches. So if you are a business owner or a corporation owner or a gym owner or a teacher or a student and you want to see us speak, hit us up.
Yes, please do that. I actually spoke on conscious leadership to a group of high school athletes recently. We were at the Movement Family recently with Michael Gorman. We love what we're doing. We're trying to help people become more hyperconscious, not just with this podcast, but also in person. We want to meet you all, so let's make that happen.
Yes.
The other thing I wanted to say is if you are looking to be in a community of other people that are hyperconscious. In other words, they're aware of their thoughts and actions, and they're living intentionally. They have goals and dreams, and you want to feel a part of something greater than yourself. The Hyperconscious Nation is for you. You want to go to the hyperconsciouspodcast.com, click on join #hyperconscious nation. You will be entered into our private Facebook group where Kevin and I actually need to be more consistent posting.
Yeah. Speaking of consistency, what do you say we consistently get back into this episode?
Perfect.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk soon.
Bye.
It's funny because when you look back, those really painful moments are, the reason why you became this incredible human being that you're proud of. So I often say, like, basically, you'll not only understand that your past is the reason you are the way you are, but you'll actually be grateful for the painful moments because you know that you wouldn't be who you are otherwise. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is, it sounds like you've had ambition from a very young age.
Yes.
I continuously get surprised because I've always been extremely, extremely, extremely ambitious, and I continuously get surprised that not everyone is that way, and that's totally fine. There's no right or wrong here. There's no judgment. It's just different. Okay, so I've always felt different.
Me too.
Especially around people without ambition, because that's one thing I've definitely always had. For you, for someone out there who is just starting to really develop their ambition, what can you tell them that they're going to go through in terms of anchors and engines and the people around them that aren't ambitious, and how that's going to, what can you give them in terms of some of the difficulty of really starting to filter out some of the associations that are no longer serving them?
Ooh, that's another good question too. I've dealt with that also. I always say I'm a no excuses type of person. Like I do not believe in making excuses. Excuses do not get you closer to what you want. I am extremely ambitious. And even, like I said, when I left school, I didn't know exactly what business I wanted to do. I just knew something was going to happen. That's it. Like I had my mind made up. And, I have a hard time relating to people sometimes who aren't ambitious, like you said, because it's like deep down, we all have a dream, but it's our own limiting beliefs that stop us from actually doing them. And I think a lot of people who aren't ambitious have that dream, but they just don't know how to get there. Their own limiting beliefs are stopping them doing it.
Right.
Now I would say that if someone has an idea or something that they want to do, because I have a lot of friends who have a lot of ideas and things that they want to do, but they've talked about it for years, and here they are still talking about it and not doing it. And it's really, after a while, it's like I'm always there to support people, but you have to just take action, and there's no other way. There's no easy way out. But if someone, to me, I'm a big believer in surrounding yourself with other ambitious people and finding those people and putting yourself in places where you can learn. I'm constantly learning. I love to learn. So I have people in my life, and I've had people in my life who had zero ambition, and to me it became kind of toxic, because it's like, here I am so excited about life and learning and growing, and it's like it kind of brought me down. So I'm a big believer in removing toxicity, for me personally. And then the people who have ideas, some of my friends who have ideas and dreams, it's like you have to set boundaries too, and just, know when to cut the conversation off after, like, this sounds really bad, but like, after you've spent so many hours trying to help them, it's like, okay, well, I have to keep doing what's good for me. So, if it was, I mean, it's hard. You have to, I'm a big believer in just surrounding yourself with people who lift you up and who teach you something and who challenge you. And I think that that's really important. And if you're not ambitious, but you want to be, start leveling up, your social life, or the people. It doesn't have to be your social life, but just the people you're around all the time, and get rid of the people who are just bringing you down.
I think that's the hardest. Like, out of all this, out of everything, that's been the hardest for me, because it's like, I don't always feel understood. I haven't always been ambitious. That's something like, personal development really made me ambitious. It made me believe. Hanging out with people like Alan made me believe. So, for me, that was always, I never had the belief. But now it's like I'm losing people out of my life, and I just didn't realize it was going to be that hard. How do you know when it's time to, and I always say this, like, when I tell you to reallocate your time, I don't mean you never have to talk to these people again, but reallocate your time, right? How do you know when it's time to reallocate your time?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, there's certain people who are toxic. Like, I had people tell me, when I first moved down to Florida, and wanted to do something that, a friend of mine, she said, I just want to sit you down and talk with you and let you know that I will never refer people to you because you don't have a college degree. And I was like, that's fine. And to me, that's toxic. It's like, I'll always support my friends no matter what. You don't have to refer anyone to me. I didn't even ask her for a referral. She just told me, you're really probably going to fail because you don't have that piece of paper. And I moved on with my life. And, if it's a toxic situation where someone's making you feel bad, number one, that's when, to me, I just distanced myself. I don't want to cut people off. I just distanced myself. And if she texts me, I'll respond, but I don't hang out with her anymore. And then there's other friends where I've had to set boundaries with, which is, it's difficult. And it means spending, I have a couple friends where, I'll go for my morning run or a walk and we'll talk for an hour. I've had to cut that down to maybe 20 minutes, and it's really difficult to do, but I just let them know, hey, I'm busy and I care, and we'll talk another time. And you really have to set those close boundaries because you don't want to get caught up in other people's lives. I know a lot of people have a hard time with this. For me, I don't, because I see my end goal. And if someone is bringing me down, or I'm just being extremely repetitive, and it's like they're looking for I don't, whatever the situation is. I mean, the biggest thing is I distance myself, and I've lost people along the way. It's a tough situation. It's all how you handle it, though. And I'm not necessarily the best at handling it because a lot of times they're new situations. Every situation is different. This is a good question. It's hard.
It's tough.
Really hard.
I don't think there is a right answer, really. And
and
that's
it's hard.
it's exploratory, right? Or explorative, whatever the proper terminology there is. But I don't think anybody has it all figured out. I think it all depends on how highly you value those relationships, and everything is super circumstantial when it comes to that. But I appreciate you
for sure
digging deep into that. I have another question that is not related at all.
I want to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
I think this is important. Every situation is different. It's all how you communicate it. So if that person that, you might need to set boundaries with or reallocate your time, the best thing is to communicate and let them know how you're feeling, even though it might be difficult. It's how you say it, and it's what you say. And if you let them know, then if that friendship is important to you, then you let them know. Like, for example, on Saturday nights, my boyfriend and I, a lot of times we'll just go to dinner, and he works just as hard and as many hours as me. And all I do is talk about work because I'm like a crazy, passionate, obsessed workaholic. And sometimes he has to tell me, like, hey, Sydney, can we talk about something? We need to get our minds off of this for an hour. And I'm like, okay, yeah, got it, noted. And it's all how you say it to people, and they'll be receptive. And if they aren't receptive, then that's another situation. But communication is key.
I'm glad you added that. That was absolute fire. That was a ton of value.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
absolutely. So I was creeping around on your website, which is fire, by the way. Your website is awesome. And one of your posts was about confusing money with happiness, and the quote was, "People confuse internal happiness with external success." Is that something that you had to learn the hard way? And if so, how did that lesson present itself to you?
I think when you grow up and you think, okay, I'm going to become a business owner, you think I'm going to become a business owner, and I'm going to, make money, and I'm going to be able to buy this and that, and I'm going to live on the beach. And, I had all these goals that were kind of and this is separate. I'm just talking about my business. I'm not talking about my podcast or blog, but my business, my marketing agency. I attached a lot of the success to external factors, such as oh my God, I'm going to be able to get, the car that I wanted. Now we get to live on the beach. We get to do all these things, but we travel all the time. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're happy, because you have to do that work within yourself. And that's when I started to realize that just because you're making money and the travel part makes me happy, but the other external factors, it just doesn't make you happy. Happiness comes from within. And I learned that. I've known that for a long time. My parents have instilled that in my mind for a long time, but you don't realize it, I think, until you experience it for yourself. And, it's funny. I was going for a run. Here we are with the running again. I was going for a run. last month, the month before. And I'm a big believer, not a big believer. I love to volunteer and give my time and help people in need. And a year ago or so, I donated a ton of clothes and furniture. We were moving to this woman who was in need. And I was on my run last month or the month before, and I ran into her, and she stopped me, and she goes, "Oh my God, Sydney, this is how, like, I've never run into this woman before." And she said, "I am so grateful for you. I was just thinking about you the other day. Every time I put on a shirt that you gave me, or I see what you've provided us, and my family, it makes my day, and I smile." And I had tears in my eyes, and I was like, it was just the most fulfilling thing in the world. And I think in that moment, I also realized, that's really what makes people happy, is giving back and doing things for others, and seeing other people happy. Just because we're living in a society where people are showing these extravagant lives that they're living at 18 years old on social media.
Right.
They're in their private jets, which I'm terrified of flying. I would never take a private jet.
But I feel you there.
They're in their Ferraris. They're doing this and that. And they're promoting that's what equals happiness. That's that level of success that people are trying to reach. And when they don't, they get discouraged. When they don't at such a young age, they get discouraged.
Right.
And, true success takes a long time and a lot of hard work. And once you achieve success, that in itself is really fulfilling. But the problem is that when we are seeing all of these people online promoting, what they're doing because of their business, they're showing people that happiness comes from buying products and things, just materialistic, external factors. When the truth is that it comes from within. Things, taking care of you, doing things that, for me, spending time with family, with friends, obviously I spend most of my time working, but, or traveling and doing things and giving back, things like that actually, those are things that fulfill you. And I just really believe that money helps it makes things easier, but money will never equal happiness, because in my opinion, you can buy all of the materialistic things in the world. You could buy the best condo on the beach. You could buy whatever you want. But at the end of the day, if you don't have love and gratitude, I just don't think you're going to feel as fulfilled in life.
Powerful, powerful answer. So I have a quote that I read on your Instagram. It was one of the very first things that I read too, which made me so excited, because as soon as I read this, I was hooked. And also, by the way, when you first started this interview, you said, "I don't believe in work-life balance." You have my heart. You have my heart. It's work-life integration, folks. Come on now. And by the way, when you're at dinner talking about work, I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm always talking about work, and I know it's extreme, but I know that when I tell people I don't believe in a work-life balance, they're like, "Sydney, you are crazy." And I'm like, "No, I'm building, I'm growing, I'm learning." And this, I can't explain
24/7, 365. This Ferris wheel is open at all times.
Yeah, I don't care how stressed I am. I won't stop.
I sense it in you. It takes one to know one.
You are a
from
savage.
From the very beginning, I knew that about you. Your self-belief is fire, by the way. So that's something that is very clear. Talking to you, you just have undying self-belief in your vision and in yourself.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And when you were 6 years old, I was peeing myself when I was 6 years old. You're already getting ready to chase your dreams.
When I was 6 years old, I remember 6 or 7, around that age, I was in an art class, and I love art, and I'm super creative. And I drew this picture, and it probably wasn't perfect, whatever. And I remember the art teacher came over, and she fixed my art because she was trying, I don't know, she was probably trying to help me. And I was that kid that was like, "Don't fix my art. That's my art. That's my creativity."
Damn right.
Yeah. So I just did that from a young age. I don't know why, but the self-belief that I do have to say that, I have really struggled with. I believed that I was capable. I've always believed that it's possible for me to make an impact in this world and to do something powerful. But, confidence is something that I'm constantly working on. I'm not like this, I'm the most confident person in the world. I'm not, I face obstacles every day. I'm constantly putting out fires. It's hard. And when you face those obstacles, and as you keep moving forward, it gets harder and harder, but more fulfilling and more fulfilling. And, the fulfilling part builds my confidence after you get through those obstacles. But I just believe that if you keep going, you can make something happen. But I don't want to give people the wrong impression that that I just like believe in myself 24/7, because I definitely have days where I'm like, can I really do this?
Right.
And I think that that's just normal. You know, I do whatever I have to do no matter how I'm feeling, but I do have plenty of days where I'm like, I don't know if I'm capable. And so I just think it's important for people to know the reality when you're going through these things. It is tough.
Those moments of self-doubt are difficult.
They are.
It sounds like you have a very deep knowing and belief in your vision, but on the day-to-day, it takes consistent courage and confidence from you.
It does. You have to put in the work and take action regardless of how you feel. And that's what's really challenging. And that's why I think a lot of people quit. And I get it. I really do. There are a lot of days where I've been like, all right, I'm done. I'm getting a job.
You did an episode that I listened to earlier on, even if something along the lines of you don't feel like it, you have to do it anyway. And that was the whole episode. And I was just like, yes, this is everything.
Yes.
You're never going to feel like it. You have to do it.
You're never, there are going to be days where you're super motivated, and there are going to be days
right.
Where you're just not super motivated. And that's what makes or breaks success, I think. You have to just, you've got to just do it. You have to put in the work. And I learned that from, I think it was Gary Vee that put out something not that long ago about like how you should listen to your grandparents. And yes. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I always listen to my grandparents, and they, both of my grandfather was a business owner. He started a family business that now my dad owns today. And I ask him questions all of the time. And I always say, how do you become successful? I've asked him this for many years, and he's like, you just do it. You just do what you have to do. And I'm like, I never really understood. I'm like, okay, yeah, but what's the secret? Like, right. what did you do? like how do you get to the next level? Like being happy, because it's not just about business. I'm all about, obviously everyone wants to achieve success in life in some way, but I also believe that success is not just for business. It's about being truly happy and like living life, not living to work, but working to live. And so I'm like, how did you do it? And now I finally realized that like, you really just do it. You take action every single day. It doesn't matter how you feel, you show up. That's it. And so I was like, okay, Gary Vee, you were on point.
Gary Vee is the man. Sydney, you are a podcaster like we are, and you get the opportunity to interview people. And something that you clearly are is an action taker. We have had the opportunity to interview some people on this show where when we pull back the curtain on who they actually are, they kind of are those people who are showcasing the jets and the Ferraris and the Lamborghinis.
Oh, yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who sees that 19-year-old on a rented jet?
Nonsense.
Right.
Like, what advice would you give them and like bring it to the surface that that's not actual success in most cases?
Yeah, well, first of all, what you just said, rented. First of all, for anybody who actually has achieved that success at a young age, I will always give them credit because I think that is incredible, and I will never put anyone down. Like you, like go you, like that's awesome.
Right.
But for the majority of people who see that and it's not reality, and they're looking to scam you to buy like their marketing like course or whatever they're looking to do, I don't know why they're doing that. You can't get off of your phone. I mean, and just start taking action. Start taking action and come up with a plan for you. I like comparing yourself, your life to other people's lives. It takes away your happiness. It takes away joy. It makes you feel bad about yourself. And if you are seeing these things and you're like, okay, well, what am I doing wrong? I think that it's important for people to know that they're not doing anything wrong, and that the best thing that you could do is to put your phone away and focus on what your dreams are and what your goals are, and come up with a plan and take action, and realize that there's no such thing like as an overnight success. It just doesn't work that way. I constantly see on Facebook and Instagram ad after ad after ad. Oh, make 6 figures in 30 days.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Well,
yep.
I totally believe anything in life is possible.
Yep.
I always will think that, but it's really the secret to getting there is putting in the work. And I think it's just, there's so much, our society puts out a lot of content that's it's not real, and it's a really bad message to put out there when we should really be talking about the amount of work that it takes to actually have a private jet and not rent one. I think the work that goes into it is what's more important, and it's what people should be talking about. But then again, if it was talked about, it could scare people off.
It's not sexy. It's the work is not sexy.
I just talked to someone about that too. I was like, behind the scenes, like, it's not necessarily pretty. However, when you put in the work long term, it is. It works. It works out if you keep going. But I would tell people to get off their phones, stop looking at that crap. Am I allowed to say crap?
Of course,
absolutely.
to just get off your phone and do what's going to work for you, for your life, and never compare yourself to anyone else. I think it's a big problem. Everybody's comparing themselves. How come they're able to do this so quickly? And then they're constantly looking for easy solutions, easy way outs, quick fixes. That's not how it works. And any aspect of your life, entrepreneurship, or just for your mental health, or anything, like, it just doesn't. It's some aspects of social media aren't healthy. I've interviewed some people that they show the private jets and the whole thing too. And then you interview them and you talk to them, and a lot of them have a lot of insecurities, and a lot of times that's why they do what they do as well, even if they're not promoting a business, and they're constantly posting, this lavish lifestyle. Either one, they do have it and they post about it, and a lot of it comes from insecurity or trying to get someone's attention, or, I just think my advice would be just get off your phone and stop comparing.
Beware of shiny object syndrome. And the thing is about comparison, I like that you're mentioning that, because you're comparing to a highlight reel. That's not even true.
Right, it's not.
On this show, our goal is to bring you on and pull back the curtain on what's really going on. That's why we asked about your morning routine and different things
and
like
that.
And
the dark times. I like talk. That's always like
me too.
The part in the episode where I say, okay, enough about the good stuff.
Right.
Let's talk about, your low point, because I think that a lot of people don't talk about that, and I think that's what makes us who we are. So we're coming up against the clock, so I want to make sure. Alan and I always have 2 questions that we ask every single guest, and my question goes as follows. So we are given this limited amount of time on Earth, 120 years if you're Alan.
Yes.
What do you hope to accomplish with your life before you leave this Earth behind?
I would love to be known for being able to prevent suicides and change the education system.
Fire. See how clear she is on that.
Right.
I'm very clear because someone actually asked me last week.
They stole the question.
They were like, if you could be famous for anything, what would it be? And I'm like, not for my business, or not to be an actress or whatever. Famous. It's to be known for preventing suicides and for changing the education system. I want to do something to help others and make an impact and do good for this world, because I struggled so much growing up. And although it's easy to talk about where I am at now, but I still face tons of obstacles every single day. And I can be positive and everything, but the reality is that, there's a lot of people out there that are going through really dark times or facing, similar obstacles or different ones that I faced. And I want people to know that they can always come to me. Or just be inspired by me or you guys or whoever it is, and know that there's so much more to life. And I hope to be able to do that one day. And when I get messages like from people that just let me know, like, hey, this really inspired me, or this changed my day, like it's everything.
So that means you're already
my life
doing
is complete.
It. Right.
I'm trying. I'm getting there. It's a slow process. I'm doing the best I can. I'm getting there.
So, Sydney, I can tell you in advance already that our missions are very congruent. So I wrote on my vision board recently to get personal development into 30,000 schools. So there's approximately 25,000 public and private schools in this country alone. So that's going to be a feat. We will be an ally in that mission. I also want to transform the education system. Like, why we didn't learn goal setting, personal development, fitness. Are you kidding me? We can talk offline at some point about that.
It's crazy. I feel like there's a lot of things that the education system doesn't teach us. Or how about failure?
Right.
We're taught that failure, this is a little tangent, but we're taught that failure is a bad thing, that it's negative.
It's a must.
When really it's a must. Okay, this is going to sound super dorky, but I was on a plane.
It's really not. You're good.
No. Just wait till I say it.
Okay, let's rock.
Okay, I was on a plane and I watched the movie was it Meet the Robinsons? It's like a Disney movie or something. Whatever. I watched it, and this little kid was an inventor, and he was constantly failing, constantly failing. This guy swoops in from the future, like picks him up, brings him to the future. This kid's dad is like some like big like inventor, and the kid is so inspired, and he's like it turns out that, okay, for anyone who
spoiler
hasn't
alert,
seen this, spoiler alert, just letting you know, turns out that kid was the son, and the kid's dad was him in the future. He finally had reached success, and but before he knew that, the kid,
everybody thought he was a loser.
Yeah, and he kept trying different things. He kept failing, and when he went to the future, when he failed, they clapped for him, and they were like, "We don't sell it. What does failure teach you? Nothing." I'm sorry. What does success teach you? Nothing. Failure teaches you everything, so we choose to celebrate our failures. And ever since I watched that movie, whenever that was, I was like, I'm going to celebrate my failures, because it's so true. We don't learn that in school. We learn, oh, you get a bad grade, you're going to be punished for that. Not, what did you learn from that? Like, it's all how... I just wish that... I think it's a little bit discouraging, and that is something that the education system doesn't teach us, that failure is the key to success and happiness in life, as bad as it might feel in the moment.
So, no kidding. So Kevin and I believe it was yesterday, just created a contest on the Hyperconscious team for getting speeches of who can get the most rejections.
Yes.
Yep.
I love that.
The most wins.
That's amazing, though, because you can only get so many rejections before you get like a go ahead with whatever it is you're trying to do.
Right.
No one will outfail me. So my last question, Kevin, we're trying to come up on the time here. So I also realized in this moment that I never read that quote on your Instagram, so I'm going to do that super fast. All right, here we go. You can choose to be uncomfortable temporarily while you are striving for what you want in life, or you can stay in your comfort zone long-term and wonder. Someone once told me to choose your tough, and we all have the opportunity to create a fulfilling life if we put in the work. So I wanted to say that because I said I would earlier and I didn't. Last question.
Thank you, yes.
I have a North Star, True North, around my neck that I always wear, and it's basically, to me, it represents my purpose and my mission and my purpose prayer. I believe we grow and we evolve and we change. You obviously have over the years. It's very clear. But I believe there's something about us that never changes. It's constant. It's unwavering. It's a guide. What about you, Sydney, never changed?
I think what never changed is growing up, I was always taught to be extremely humble no matter what it is that you do, and to help others. And every day I try to do something to make someone else feel good, and just to live my life for other people, to do things to serve other people. And that's a core value of mine. You know, you do the right thing, you help others, and that's my life mission. And that's what I live by. And I've always been that way. That's how my parents are. That's how, everyone in my family is. That's how I was raised. You're humble, you do the right thing, you give back. And those are my core values. And I live by that. And I think it's so important. Be honest. I mean, it's literally the simplest things, but those things about me, they have never changed. I will always try my best to do the right thing. And I will always try to do something every day to make someone feel good. And I will dedicate my life to making a difference. And that's something that I've always wanted. And it's never changed, and it never will.
You're making a difference with us. I've enjoyed this. I knew this was going to be a great episode. Alan and I, when we walked in the studio, were like, yo, this is going to be great.
Thank you.
But you've really added so much value. And I think usually a guest will resonate higher with one of us, but like you have both ends. Like you have the extreme work,
thanks.
You have the humility. It's just, this was a great episode. So you survived the Hyperconscious Gauntlet. Now plug away on where people can find you, your social media, any things you have coming out, all of the things.
Thank you. This has been seriously amazing. You can find me, my podcast. It's called the She Did It podcast on any platform. It's really available everywhere. So it's She Did It. And then you can find all of my blog posts, SydneyNanberg.com. It's SydneyNanberg.com. And I have a new blog post every day. I have 4 podcasts a week. And you can find me on social media at Sydney Nanberg. And that's really it. And it's all free and valuable. And it's hard to see sometimes because I put in so much work if I'm even making a difference. But
you are for sure. I went through the
you.
comments on your Instagram. You're making a difference for sure.
Thank you. I hope that everybody finds it valuable. That's why I do what I do. So yeah, you guys can find me there, and yeah, it's that simple.
Oh, Sydney, I consider you an ally in the mission, especially now that I know you want to get and change the education system for the better. So we will be in touch without a question. I just want to thank you. 10-second blip.
Yeah, can we get a, so
yeah, let's
get a 10-second blip. If you could leave the listeners with a 10-second blip to motivate, inspire, or change something in their head, change that mindset, what would you say?
Do it. Take action. Do it now because you'll regret it later on, and don't live your life with regrets.
Fire.
Oh, fire.
Absolute fire. There's a teaser, there's a teaser clip. Boom.
Perfect.
That's it. Don't think about it. Just do.
Just do it. Nike. No, I'm kidding.
Nike.
All right.
Yeah, sorry, Nike. I think I just stole your
you said it way better than
tagline. Thanks.
Well, the no regret,
that.
the you'll regret it part. If you don't, that's the part that I love. So,
oh, you will.
We consider you a huge ally. I just want to
Yes.
thank you thoroughly for coming on the show. This has been
you.
wonderful.
We appreciate you so very much. I think you did an amazing job adding value to the listeners. And like Alan said, you are now an ally on the mission with us because we resonate so highly with not only you as a human being, but your passion, your purpose, and your mission. And any way we can help, we want to.
Yep. Please let us know if there's any way we can help.
Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. I love your podcast. I love the work you're doing. Obviously, this has been so much fun, and I hope that everyone gains just as much value as I did from you guys as well. So thank you.
We appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Sydney Nanberg.
Talk soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed this episode where we were lucky enough to sit down with the one and only Sydney Nanberg. Up next, we are going to do a 5-minute clinic on the word complacency. So I remember back in the day, I would get back from work and I would literally sit on the couch and watch Netflix all night because to me, going to work was good enough. If you find yourself often saying good enough, there's a chance in that arena you're becoming complacent.
So you can be grateful for what is, but also dissatisfied simultaneously. We've talked a lot about that. I wanted to say thank you, David. So David was an old boss of mine. I painted in Maine when I was 19 years old in between my freshman and sophomore year of college, and we had an absolute blast that summer. And he posed this topic for us. So we're going to talk about basically how to step out of complacency. There's a few things you can do. You can get around more ambitious people. You can set bigger goals. So we're going to talk about that.
We hope you will enjoy.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.